Hey, it's Geraldine, and in today's video I'm going to be showing you an overview of my full music collection. So if you've not seen me before, I make vinyl and hi-fi videos over on Instagram as well as on TikTok, so if you want to see more of me, you can check those out. But in my last YouTube video, I showed my full stereo setup, and I got a pretty big response for that video, and I appreciated and loved reading through all the comments. So if you haven't seen that, please make sure to check that out. But I thought the next appropriate thing to share was all the music that I love playing on it. So in this video, it's going to be an overview because I just have way too much stuff to fit in one video. So I like collecting vinyl, cassette tapes, CDs, 8-tracks, reel-to-reel tapes, and that's what I'll be sharing with you today. So I think we'll start off with the stuff closest to me, which are my reel-to-reel tapes and 8-tracks. So let's go! So out of all the physical media that I own the least in reel-to-reel tapes. When I showed my reel-to-reel player, I had people asking whether the tapes were hard to find or if they even made albums on reel-to-reel tapes, and they did, and they are extremely hard to find. So I mostly like recording mixtapes, so I have a whole bunch of blank tapes and tapes that have stuff on that I'll record over, but I do have a few albums. So any album really is pretty hard to find on reel-to-reel, even like the easy listening stuff from like the 50s and 60s, and then when you start talking about like classic rock artists, it gets even harder. So I only have 2 classic rock ones, and it is the self-titled album for Blood, Sweat, and Tears, and then I have Bob Dylan, John Wesley Harding on reel-to-reel. Now for 8-tracks, so in my stereo setup video, I did not have an 8-track player, but I do have one. It's just not plugged in right now, but I collect quite a few of them, and I have this whole case full of them. It's kind of okay that I don't have a player because I have so many to fix. So something about 8-track players is that the little pressure pad inside of them always disintegrates, so you have to replace them by opening up the actual 8-track cartridge, and they are very hard to open. I do have one new 8-track, and it is this, The Cramps. It is Bad Music for Bad People, and it comes with all these cool little extra goodies. This one's number 119 out of 250, so this one is definitely my favorite in the collection. Now for the bulk of my collection, which are my vinyl records. I like to primarily collect records, so I kind of lost count of how many I had, but last time I was uploading to Discogs like months ago, it was around 1,200, and I've since gotten way more since then, so it's more than that. But I like to organize my records by artist's first name, which I know people absolutely hate that way, but it's the way Discogs does it, and the first time I organized records, I just did it by that like years ago, so I've just done it like that for now. So I'm gonna show you where I keep my records, so because this is not all of them, and like what each section has. So let's do it. So on this first shelf, I have artists that start with the letter A, and then B ends here, and then C, but this is not all of C. I have the rest of C on another shelf. The most of one artist that I have on this one is the Beatles, and it starts with the Let It Be box set and ends with Sgt. Pepper, but I still have more of the Beatles that I need to put on Discogs that are not there yet. My wooden dividers were made for me by my grandma. She got all the letters of the alphabet engraved on each of them, and I use them for my whole collection. So before I can move on to the next shelf, I have records down here that I have to share. So on the end, this is like my miscellaneous records. So on the end I have classical music, and then I have Christmas, Disney, house singles, then all of this is like compilation albums. And then here I have my movie soundtracks, and then starting here is Spanish speaking artists, as well as this stack of records here too. And then next to my little mono setup, I have a whole bunch of records that I have not put on Discogs yet, and it has a whole bunch of records that were gifted to me, as well as some of my most recent pickups, like my Pet Sounds from the Beach Boys. Now for the next shelving unit behind my Cool World Hollywood clock, I have the rest of the artists of C. So here I have like CCR, then D goes all the way up to here. So I have Duran Duran. Then for E, it goes all the way up to here. So here I have the Eagles, Earth, Wind, and Fire, and Erasure. Then it goes to F till here, which has, you know, the Fleetwood Mac. And then G's end all the way here. So I have like Genesis. So next I have records in this built-in shelf. So it goes to H here, and I have Heart. Then to I, which has an excess. Then J ends here. So here we have John Lennon. K, which has, you know, Kansas. And then L, which has Love and Rockets. Then I have another shelf just like this on the opposite side that continues the alphabet, but underneath it continues where the other one leaves off. So down here I have the majority of S, which has Steve Miller Band, and then T, which has, this is Thompson Twins, and then U, V, and this is W. Now for the last bulk of my vinyl record collection. So we're gonna finish up the LPs and then move on to the 45s. So here we continue with M. So it goes to here. So I have a whole bunch of Madonna and the Monkees. Then N goes to here. So we have like Nina Simone. Then O is pretty small section, but I have my favorite, Oingo Boingo. Then for P, it ends here. So of course I have the Pink Floyd. Then for Q, pretty small section too, but here I have Queen. Then for R here, so I have a whole bunch of Rolling Stones. So like here, Some Girls. And then for the beginning of S, that starts with Sade. And then the S goes to the other shelf I previously showed. And then finally on this bottom shelf, I end off the alphabet with Y, so I have Yes. And then all these records are newer pressings or albums that were released from like the 2000s till now. And it also has a whole bunch of my favorite records, which I have here for easy access. So my most favorite record in my collection is New Order Substance 1987, which I have 2 of. And then moving on, here I have my 10-inch records as well as my heart-shaped Bobby Caldwell What You Won't Do for Love. Let me take it out. It looks like that. And then I have these random blank acetate records. And my only shellac 78 RPM record, which is Mr. Sandman by the Chordettes. Next here, this section of records are stuff that I have not put on Discogs yet or haven't been organized, as well as this huge stack of records I have here. And then this last portion of my record collection are stuff that was gifted to me by my followers from TikTok and Instagram. So I have them all separated here, which I love these so much. Next, I will show my 45 records. I won't really go into like artists, but I'll show you how I store them. So the first place of storage that I have are in this little box. So I have some in here. And then I store the majority of them in these little boxes like this. So these are boxes for bike components. So I have these like this. And here I have another one. So I have these down here because I don't know where to put them yet, but I have a whole bunch up here that I'll show you right now. So then up here I have 4 more of those bike component boxes. So these are just full of 45s. And then I have this little vintage Rhythm Tote 45 case that holds some more of my 45s. And now the last part of my 45 collection is on this table. So I have this little rack for my 45s. Most of these are with picture sleeves. And then underneath the table, I have a whole bunch of little 45 booklets. So I'll show you one of them. So I have 5 of these and they are full of 45. So I open them up and they have like clear little sleeves so you can slide the 45s in. So this red one has all of my Duran Duran 45s inside. And that's my whole 45 collection. Now the last part of my collection are CDs and cassette tapes. So I don't have them out here because they don't fit, so they're in my room. So I will show you my CDs and cassettes in my bedroom. So now for my cassette tapes, which I have mostly behind me, but I have this big case full of cassettes that was gifted to me, which I have a YouTube video on where I go through every single tape and you can see it on my YouTube page. So if you want to see what's in here, make sure to check that out. It's mostly a whole bunch of 80s music. But let me show you the stuff behind me. So I have a couple stacks here, but I have this 3-tiered rack that is full of tapes, and these are some newer ones that I have. And they're sort of in alphabetical order, so this is like L through the end of the alphabet, which is U, and then a whole bunch of compilation albums behind those. Then I have this teak roll top cassette case that holds the beginning of the alphabet, so from A till like I. So first, of course, it's ABBA, and then a couple of loose ones, which is Blink-182, The Cure. Then I have a whole bunch of cassette cases that are not in any particular order, but I have some 90s stuff in here. Next I have this little Volkswagen Beetle with cassette tapes, my favorite album. And then my favorite cassette case is this orange one that's like a hand bag, and it opens up like this, and it has more of my favorite 80s albums like the Talking Heads. We have some of the Replacements, and then this little Snoopy box that holds more cassettes. So stuff that's not in order yet, like the Beatles, Paul McCartney. Then here I just have a stack of pretty miscellaneous cassettes that I still have to organize. And then the last section of my cassettes are in these Napa Valley cases. So up here I have like various artists, but down here are my cassette singles. So my favorite is probably the Pet Shop Boys, What Have I Done to Deserve This? And lastly is my CD collection, which is all right here, and most of it is in these CD cases. These CD cases are pretty cool because they have levers to eject the CDs. And that's all for my CD collection. So that was a brief overview of my whole music collection. I plan on making more videos in the future going in depth to it and showing certain albums that I love. So if you'd want to see that, make sure to subscribe. And of course, if you like this video, make sure to give it a like. But lastly, I made a Geraldine HiFi t-shirt recently and I was wearing it this whole video. So if you liked it, you can find it down below in the description. So thank you so much for watching.